Just thrilled to have Kim Spagone from Rowan University here to talk about SEL and special education. For those of you who are new, who are just joining us now, just to remind everyone that this is the kickoff to SEL Week. I'm the president of SEL4NJ, and we're just thrilled to be able to bring you, 9 webinars throughout the week, just presented by leaders in the field. And all of these will be posted on the SEL4NJ site. And we really hope all of you will sign up for SEL Day, sel.org, and that on SEL Day itself, which is on Friday, that you share on social media all the great work that you're doing in your schools. And it can be small, it can be big. It's really a light lift. It's intended to, and it's just meant to be a way to get all the positivity out there in the world kind of collectively at the same moment. So if you have not signed up yet for SEL Day, please do so, selday.org, and check out SEL4NJ. And with that said, I'm really so pleased to turn this over to Kim to kind of talk to us about her topic today. So over to you, Kim.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Kim Spagone. I am the Social Emotional Learning Coordinator at Mainland Regional High School, and I teach in the school psychology program at Rowan University. My background is I'm a school psychologist. So by trade, I'm a school psychologist, and I have been working in the traditional school psychology role for about 20 years. And then in a second, I'll share my screen and kind of get you started on that. But we've made a bit of a shift over here at Mainland, and it really has hinged a lot on spreading the social emotional learning love across the entire school instead of kind of in that specialized area down in the special ed end of the world. So let me share my screen here with you. Can you see that? Is that good? Okay, great. So I entitled this SEL across the tiered system of support because we had to sit down and put our heads together to figure out how to spread the services that were deeply ingrained and deeply part of that special ed system, the IEP system, across the rest of the school. My little bit of history is, as a school psychologist, we were doing mental health services. We were doing counseling with our students, but our services were generally, there was me, there was another school psychologist, there were social workers, we would have school psychology interns and practicum students, and we all were housed down in one set of offices, and our services were generally relatively limited to folks with IEPs or folks with identified disabilities. And I know that that is not uncommon. I know that ideally we would be providing services to the entire school. But as anyone who is a school psychologist, if there's any school psychologists or social workers or LDs or anybody on the child studies team in this meeting, you'll know just how tight our time gets. So, you know, our services were very, very limited. What would happen then is I work in a high school, and high school students have a good bit of insight as to when their friends need support. So what would happen is we would have this unofficial referral system where I would have students and they would bring in a friend and say, hey, could you talk to my friend? My friend needs help. And some of the students that I ended up spending the most time with and doing some of the most intense interventions or referrals and family meetings and things like this were students that weren't technically part of, you know, our sphere of service. So I approached, as funny as the timing is, right before COVID, about a year before COVID hit, I approached our superintendent and said, there's a need in this building that is not being met, which is the case for the surrounding schools. Like, it's not uncommon, but the need was not being met. We had 80% of the population that did not have any kind of built-in mental health services or any kind of built-in support. And we had a lot of people providing services to 18 or 20%. We also at that point didn't have much in the way of universal programming occurring throughout the school. So everything, the deepest services, the most comprehensive services were occurring for 18% of the building. So I proposed a shift. And I have to give credit where credit is due, that I have a very supportive administration that listened and understood the assignment. And I had some very good examples, and we were able to shift that over into a comprehensive service provision model that was not that wait and see model that, as you know, many times special ed can end up being this wait and see. Like, we wait until there's a real problem that warrants specialized instruction, that we wait until there's a significant enough mental health support needed that a student has an IEP where now they have goals and objectives, and that deep level of support is warranted. Whereas there may be, 25 steps before that, that there was nobody built in to provide those steps. So here at school, we now have, and I'll go into a little bit of this, this is just my little history lesson. We have services across the tiers, including special ed. The special ed tier has been built up. There are now SEL classes in the special ed department. SEL is being built into every class and every curriculum, every single class, even where we've had to kind of sell it, where it didn't seem like it fit. And it fits perfectly now that we've spent the time doing the staff development. For anyone, and if this is repetitive, please forgive me, the multi-tiered system of support it's a model for service provision that looks at the school as a whole. It looks at what is the foundation that we are setting for every single student, and then how do we identify and support students that have greater needs. And I like this visual. We're looking at the foundation. This is the foundation that underlies all the tiers, which is the professional development. What is our common language? I'll come back to common language. We want everyone using the same vocabulary. So what is the professional development? What are our community partnerships? What is our system for providing support for the whole entire school? This is something that it became frustrating when some of these things weren't in place. We didn't have a school-wide SEL program. We didn't have school-wide service provision. So these are some things that we've had to build literally from the ground up. And then we've gotten ourselves out into classrooms and are doing things like mental health literacy. We're doing prevention programs for things like suicide prevention programs. We're putting ourselves out there into every classroom to make our faces known. These are universal things that we're doing. We have formed partnerships with the teachers in all different departments who are teaching excellent lessons that continue to have that thread of common language throughout them. That's that tier one primary universal support that every single student receives. One of the other things that in this shift that we have been able to do is the moving up to tier two, which is identifying students who may either be at risk or may have demonstrated that they need a little bit more. is we have many, many avenues to identify those students. We started going down to our sending districts, and we have a list of students to check in with before they even get here. And we're dividing up that list before they even get here. That's something that we had never done before. So we're doing mental health checks and wellness checks and all of these things to build up that second tier of support. We have groups, we have many avenues for students to access our services. And then we have reduced the number of people that need those more intensive supports. We level of need because they had not had any way to access those supports until they sometimes were in crisis. So this is just a little review of the systems of multi-tiered systems of support for those of you who aren't familiar. A lot of the MTSS model is often thought of as an academic model. Obviously I'm in mental health, so I don't usually think of that first, but I do know that it's seen as like that universal solid instruction, those good teaching practices. We're using multimodal instruction, we're building relationships, all of those things that teachers do really well. And then we see, okay, this student is not reading so well. So what kind of targeted support can we give that student? How are we going to monitor that? How are we going to see, do we need to adjust what we're providing for this student? And if that student does not respond to that little bit of extra support, then maybe they get referred for more of an intensive plan and maybe more specialized instruction. Well, we took that and shifted it over to a student wellness model that uses those same 3 tiers, but for student wellness. So again, the professional development for all staff. We spend a lot of time working with administration and revising all relevant policies that they reflected not only what we were doing, but what we aspired to do. So our practices, our official practices have shifted to that MTSS multi-tiered system of support model. The SEL competencies are effectively integrated into all subjects. That is universal. That is across general ed and special ed. That is something that, I'll talk a little bit about staff development as we go, but that is something that people were not quite sure how to do. Some of those things didn't have a logical connection. How do you integrate SEL into math? How do you integrate SEL into science? And that took a little bit of like, let's go through this and let's sit down in small focus groups and let's work through how to make that work. Because it's something that I think people don't automatically know how those things connect. We increase the access to mental health services for staff, students, families. We are in constant consultation mode. Our doors are always open. Parents call us, staff comes in, students come in and pop in and just ask questions. We have professional learning communities, so we have PLC meetings. We go into those meetings, we ask for feedback about what would you like us to learn, or what would you like us to teach you, what would you like to learn? And I've created in-services based on requests, based on what do people feel like they don't understand that they would like to understand. Anything from how to integrate these things into different classes to more specific things like, could you teach us about ADHD? Could you teach us about things we think we understand, but we really don't know what to do? And so part of that access is we're in the classroom, whether it's by proxy because we said, hey, try this, or we're physically in the classrooms, in the hallways, we're in activities. I supervise the musical, I coach a team, different things to integrate our wellness folks into everything, to destigmatize students having relationships with us. Kids talk to me all day in the hallway. We have tried, it has been a core goal of mine to destigmatize walking into our offices. There are kids who have lunch in these offices. There are kids, my name gets yelled down the hallway. We yell their names down the hallway. Like it's something that students will say, oh, I'm going to see Dr. Stagone, I'm going to see Mrs. Paisley, I'm going to see, and fill in the blank. And it's not something that is considered stigmatized. And that was really important for us. We are wellness team members, are present on nearly all committees. And what that means for us is, again, this is foundational to us, is committees about behavioral threat assessment, committees about school safety, committees about everything. We are part of those committees because the administration values us, but we also come and provide the SEL wellness angle for the decisions that are being made, the foundational decisions that are being made in the district. And that, I think, has been a key. That's still at that foundational level. The multi-tiered model of mental health service provision integrates well with the INRS system, the 504s, special ed. We are present at all of those levels. For those of you familiar with the MTSS model, a student who moves into that second or third tier does not lose access to the first tier, that universal support. Students are general education students first, whether they have an identified disability, whether they have a condition that warrants a 504, whether they are part of that INRS process, they are general education students first. So we are at that universal and tier 2 level, but we see every student. We do a universal screening. So we have our students, the entire school, take a screening measure. The one that we use, it allows us to gather information about their thoughts on themselves and their thoughts and their attitudes towards things like attendance, academic mastery, relationships with teachers. It's similar to a universal climate survey, but it gives us individual information for students. So we utilize that as another way of not only looking at broad measure or at broad cohort aggregate data, like overall our students feel their relationships with teachers are strong, or overall they feel like they understand what their tasks are in their classes. They feel academically confident, those kinds of things. But we also can see like individual students that are struggling with those things. And that gives us another way of checking in with certain kids and saying, hey, we saw on this that, you had some concerns about, feeling confident about your academics. Let's talk about that. And that has been very, very useful. Early intervention for at-risk students. Again, we get names of students from 8th grade that we divide those students up over the summer, and the first week of school, we're checking in with kids that the sending districts have said that they could just use a check-in. But also that early intervention is any teacher, any parent, any administrator can say, we think this student needs to be checked in on. And we check in on those students, and sometimes they say, hey, I'm really good, everything's fine, I was having a bad day. But we keep an ongoing check-in with those students And it still surprises me how frequently those students that really said, I'm good, I don't need anything, maybe 2 months later, 3 months later, will shoot me a message and say, hey, can I come up? Can we meet? And that ongoing, that even that digital connection where they just know my name or know one of our names, it gives them access, again, increasing access for these students. And same thing with families. We speak at the orientations, we speak at any parent meeting, we speak at all of those things. We speak at the faculty meetings for day one at the beginning of school. And it's pretty much, we want everyone to know where we are, how to find us, how to reach us, how to access us, so that something that is, at a level 2 or 3 doesn't suddenly, catapult into being a level 8 and people don't know how to reach us. We want people to always know how to reach us. And research-based interventions that include individual group progress monitoring, program evaluation. Like, we're always sitting down and saying, what have we done? Did we do it well? Do we need to improve it? What's our evidence that we did it well? What's our evidence that we need to improve it? How are our student outcomes? How are our group outcomes? And we joke that we're having a self-reflection meeting, but we definitely, we meet a good bit. Let's see, I was just checking the chat. I hope I don't go too fast. I know that I could talk for 4 or 5 hours, and so I wanted to compress it. But if you feel like I'm talking too fast, just feel free to interrupt me if you have a question. I'll leave time at the end for sure. That foundational staff training, that staff development that lays the groundwork for integrating SEL across all 3 tiers. Just over time, some things to keep in mind that have been my experience is focusing on perspectives and practices and not tasks. Any of you in this group who are teachers, I imagine that when someone says we have some more tasks for you to do and we have a new program, that you start to twitch a little bit and your eyes start to glaze over and you start getting very frustrated from the first moment, which I understand, that we have more tasks for you. We have more things that you need to do. So everything that I put out is about shifting your focus, shifting your practices as a whole, and not, here are some things you need to do. Can you fill this form out? Can you do this? Can you do that? Because, SEL and relationship building and access and how we view our kids, it really is a perspective, and it's not a to-do list. Framing SEL as universal, meaning student and educator and family, and lifelong. This is not something that ends when a child graduates or when the child leaves your class. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir with this group here, but the goal of social emotional learning is to create learning of these concepts and competencies that this child will take forever with them. This is not something to get through class or to decrease behavior, although obviously behavior would improve, but this is something that has long reverberating effects. And I think sometimes, again, back to the perspective, being really clear that this is a big thing and not a list of things to do to get through this year. Change takes time. I am deeply proud of what we have done here, but I can tell you it's a work in progress. I can tell you that we didn't, at the beginning of 2021, 2022 school year, stand up in front of the group and say, hey, this is what we're doing. And we didn't get just standing ovations and then everything was easy. It takes time. Every change, no matter how amazing and how smart and how well put together, is something that We expect that there are going to be people that need a little bit more convincing, and that whole culture shift takes time. Sometimes the people that you think most need the training in SEL practices are not the first people you should train. This is my opinion. It's something I kind of live by, but we know that there are natural leaders within every department. It's the people that everybody listens to, the people that are charismatic, or the people that are persistent and persevere and have these leadership roles within the department, even if they're not identified as such. We have called those folks forth and said, we need your help with this, versus, hey, these 4 or 5 people really need this. We're like, no, let's get the folks that are the leaders, and they're also ones that have been enthusiastic, have been like, oh, this is really neat, this is really great, let's check this out. So we've targeting those leaders has, I think, been really, really key. Listen actively, validate experiences, and meet people where they are. Not everyone is going to want to dive into a different way of seeing things. So I think being a school psychologist, I've tried to just listen to people and understand that change is frustrating, and that some of the students and some of the things that they're dealing with have been frustrating. Again, any of you folks who are teachers, I'm sure you know, everyone feels overworked. Everyone feels like their plate is very, very full. So this can feel like a lot, which is why I always go back to the perspectives and not practices approach. PD should be brief, frequent, ongoing, and immediately useful. The first time when we had these big ideas, I was told I had 10 minutes. And I squeezed a lot into 10 minutes. But 10 minutes is awfully brief. But of late, I usually don't have much more than a half an hour. So I'm trying to make a rich half an hour that covers a lot of useful things, and then say, okay, I'll see you next month. Because at some point when people's plates are very, very full, saying, okay, I need you for half a day, not only is it hard to carve that time out, but I think that can feel a bit overwhelming. So I have some slides to show you after this that are some of the things we've been sharing with the staff. The why is as important as the how. I think that, again, the how can feel like a task list. The why is a shift in perspective. So why does this work with children's brains? Why does this work with, why is this important? Why will this yield results? Why is this important in the long term? I think that trumps the how to me. And from the top down, we have to create a culture of practice what we preach. If we're talking about how we want to view and treat children, we have to view and treat not only children, but our colleagues the same way. We have to, integrating with the entire district is, administration saying, hey, this is great. We're going to treat people and each other the way that we want our teachers to work with children, like that we create a tone where everyone is on the same page. This is the beginning of some of the things that these are some of the things I share with the staff, and I'm going to give this out to you because I can't go through all of it as deeply as I would like to, but this is something that again, when we talk about common language, these are some things I have had people out of nowhere 3 months after a training say, could you send me that slide again? Could I see this again? Universal growth needs. Every single human, every adult, every child needs to know, am I important to somebody here? am I good at something here? Can I influence my world? And how can I positively influence my world by sharing what I have and who I am with other people? I frame this to staff that if one of these things is missing, we're going to see it. If one of these things was missing, I'll talk about my job as SEL coordinator. Do I feel like I'm important? I hope so. Do I feel like someone would miss me if I didn't come to work tomorrow? I think I do. I think that there would be a lot of people that would miss me. Am I good at something here? I hope so. I feel that way. But if any one of these things were missing, if I felt like I had no autonomy and couldn't influence my world and couldn't share what I'm good at with other people, my job satisfaction would decrease. I think, framing that in that way, and then that students feel the same way, can really be eye-opening. And I've been putting this in probably almost every in-service that I've done for the past probably 3 or 4 years. Definition of resiliency, the ability to overcome adversity and challenges, bounce back stronger, wiser, more personally powerful. And I'm going to just skim through these. We talk about ACEs. That's a whole separate in-service in and of itself. But we talk about that there are things that we see that students go through, that we go through, but that have an impact, and it's lifelong. This is the reason we talk about this in the framework. I mean, you guys, I'm sure, have heard of and probably seen videos and things with ACEs. The effect of adverse childhood experiences is lifelong. The antidote to that is relationships, connection, developing social emotional competencies. These are some of the things that can counteract some of the physical and mental health outcomes, the negative physical and mental health, household behavioral outcomes from ACEs is some of the stuff that we want people to employ, that this entire week is about. What is social emotional learning? You guys, I'm not even going to read through all of this, but this is what I'm sharing with you is what I'm putting out to staff. This is, I'm sure, familiar. This is embedding social emotional learning in the school. As you see, it's at the center and everything else builds around it. It's a visual concept that, again, is familiar to everybody here, some more than others, but is familiar to everybody here, where SEL is at the middle. SEL is not an added task. It is something that is at the core. Benefits, again, that lifelong, those lifelong benefits of integrating SEL into everything. And of course, again, I always put this out to staff. And I can, if anybody wants, I have a PowerPoint that I've created that has all the language and the written notes in there, the stuff that I do send out to staff. So I'm more than happy to share that. But examples of how to use SEL in different classroom activities. What do these different competencies look like in different activities? How do you integrate them? I think a misconception about social emotional learning is that we have to try to integrate mental health into classroom lessons. And I think that is something that has been a big shift here is, of course, how do you possibly integrate mental health into classes that are completely disconnected from any mental health type things? And these are examples that people have found very useful. Explain their train of thought behind responses, share what they would like to learn, embed choices, support, all different things like this that are not connected to mental health at all. They're connected to building these core competencies, self-awareness, self-management, again, relationships, skills, social awareness. And I'm scooting through these so that I can just kind of real quick flash them all up. What does this look like in a classroom? A few examples. I give some examples about how to take an academic focused lesson and add the SEL piece into it. And that's something that I think is very, very helpful. I always send out links to research and I kind of update them. These are some excellent articles. Like I said, I'll send these out to you, but they're engaging. They're things that are quick reads, but they're engaging, and teachers have given me really good feedback. I only keep including things that I get good feedback about. Links to practices, approaches, lessons, making SEL more relevant, all of these things that if people want to pull up, like, how do I do this? I continuously send out links to them. Links to videos, because who doesn't love video? These are some really, really good videos, and I keep updating those as well. This 8 Dimensions of Wellness is from our mainland regional high school wellness page. We have a whole comprehensive page that has all of our contact information, again, access. It's under the parents tab, the staff tab, the students tab, under the about the district tab. It's everywhere. Everywhere you could possibly find it, it's there. And this is just like a little preview of that we send out to our staff. And if you want, when you have this PowerPoint, you can click on the this part and it'll open up the whole page. This is something that I absolutely love. This is brain aligned practices for educators. Like, how are you doing? Where are you having difficulty? Are you coming to work because you had a really, really rough day? Or are you feeling great and you want to share it? Are you just kind of feeling overwhelmed? And this is all of these different brain-based things that you can do that, what do you need? Here's how we can help your brain get those things. And like I said, I will send it out. It's worth taking the 10 minutes and looking at it. I love it. And I've gotten really good feedback about it. And this is one for students. What are we seeing? What is happening with a student that we're seeing, and what do we think they need in that moment? This can give you some brain-based, neurologically sound things that you can conceptualize, how that student is doing and how to maybe bring them back into the fold in a relationship building way. And I know that was like the speed demon through all of the information, but I will send this out to you. I really just wanted to give you a preview of what we're sending out to staff, but do you have any questions? Let me stop sharing this. Let's see, stop sharing. Does anybody have any questions?
I'd just like to share, what a comprehensive approach to integrated SEL. I mean, wow, through the different tiers, through the different subjects. And I just love the examples that you shared of the how to do it. Because lots of times, at first glance, some teachers are like, well, I teach chemistry, and they just can't see it until they see it. So I think I have a question. How many years have you been implementing this approach in this school, in this high school?
In this high school, I moved over into this gen ed position right before COVID hit. So we started building supports for general education and hired another school psychologist right before COVID hit. And then all of a sudden we were home and we were like, oh my goodness, thank God we have a couple extra people,
Right.
like we had suddenly. So we've been problem solving our way through it for a couple of years. We trained a resiliency team. We've added to our wellness team. We now have, it's me, it's a SAC. We have a school counselor and a student intervention counselor that are both LCSWs in the community, but also now they're here. So we have 4 full-time people on a wellness team that when I think about it now, I have no idea what we did before. I
Right.
really don't know because we are busy every minute of every day.
How many students do you have in the school?
Our school has 1,200 plus.
Yeah. So you really, I mean, I can see where 4. It's like I can imagine you're so busy too, and what it must have been like without. Wow.
Well, and what happened was without, there were a lot more community referrals. There were a lot more, well, here, if you call this number, if you call mobile crisis, they'll come to your house. If you call, we've started this year, we formed a community partnership where instead of sending someone out for screening, somebody comes in because no one likes to send a student to the emergency room. Like none of us ever feel like that's the best first choice. So, we've worked really hard to start integrating somebody coming out here to us, which has worked out really, really well.
Nice.
Everything, things like, working with translators, working with like all different things to just increase access to us, to support. And now it's just, we all just have open doors and people pop in all day. I had to put a big sign, like, please do not knock.
Oh, and I know that too. Right, Bill. Well, that's because you've built relationships. You're perceived, you and your team are perceived as trusted, people and safe. And that's so important, right? Because it's the students are vulnerable, and to be a trusted person where there's some kind of, established relationship that makes all the difference. So I am going to see, maybe there are any other questions. Feel free to put them in the chat or unmute. We have just another minute or so left. So I think this was just fascinating. And I think we have to rename the title of the presentation because I think, it was so much more. And I just, the integrated piece of this is just critically important. So what we're planning on doing is we're recording these sessions. They will be available on the website. And also along with it, we'll have materials and resources. So if you're okay, we would love to include some of the resources you mentioned or the PowerPoint. That would be fabulous.
Yeah, absolutely. I will. Do you want me to email that to you?
Yep, that would be fabulous. And then what we can do is we'll make sure that they're sent out and made available.
Okay, I will do that.
Great. Well, thank you so much. That was just fascinating. And also, yeah, so you're getting lovely comments, Kim. This is great. What a great presentation on integrating SEL. Your staff, students, and families are so fortunate to have your experience. Lots of thank yous and thanks. So that's wonderful. So everyone on the call, this is just day 1 of a four more days of celebrating SEL. So tomorrow we have creating schools of character and social emotional competence, and also a great presentation as well on school-wide behavioral expectations, how clear, consistent, and impactful, sort of like how to unjumble the schoolhouse around behavioral expectations. That's just great. And then on Wednesday, we have SEL in the workplace. We have SEL in the arts. Really, those are both going to be fabulous. And then how to obtain an SEL certificate in leadership. I mean, that'll be really interesting just to continue everyone's learning. What does social emotional learning look like in elementary schools? And then information about the NJ Sky climate survey, which is just, a great resource for schools in New Jersey. And then, of course, Friday is SEL Day. So if you have not signed up yet, selday.org, or you can go on to sel4nj.org. So hope to see you all tomorrow. Have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. And thank you again, Kim. That was just fabulous.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good one. Enjoy.
All right. Take care, everyone.